Welcome back once again. So now let's continue with the questions where we left yesterday. If you are new to my channel, then please do like, share and subscribe, and also click on the bell icon so that whenever I upload new videos, you will be notified. Let me remind you, we are discussing about the questions on digital SAT math, a section algebra, and the kind of concepts we are studying here, it is linear functions. And this question has a difficulty level of easy. It's a simple question here. It says hydrogen is placed inside a container and kept at a constant pressure. The graph shows the estimated volume Y in liters of hydrogen when its temperature is X Kelvin. So they are talking about this graph. Volume is representing Y axis and the temperature is representing X axis. Now question says, what is the estimated volume in liters of the hydrogen when its temperature is 500 Kelvin? It's simply reading the graph, and this is the line of best fit or estimated. We can say when the temperature is 500 Kelvin, you should go towards the graph, towards the line by the way, and where that line is intersecting the drawn one, that is the estimated volume at that point. So I can see the coordinate of X and Y here is becomes 500, 7. So 5 for the temperature of 500, the volume is gonna be 7 liters. I can go with the option C, which is representing 7 liters. The line graphed in the XY plane below models the total cost in dollars of a cab ride Y in certain city during a non-peak hours based on the number of miles X traveled. This is representing the graph of total cost versus the distance in miles. Now question says, according to the graph, what is the cost for each additional miles traveled in dollars of a cab ride? As you see, y-axis is representing the cost, x-axis is representing a distance traveled in miles. If you look at this line, a person has to pay after 1 mile, person has to pay $5. After 2 miles, person has to pay $7. After 3 miles, person has to pay $9. From where I am writing 5, this is 7, this is 9. I am just calculating based on the how many lines they are. Okay. So from this one, what I can understand, per mile, how many dollars has been paid? Per mile, $2 has been paid for this ride. So we should go with option A. You can also solve in terms of any linear equation, y equal to mx plus b. Okay, so m is basically the charge per miles and b is the initial cost. You can see that initial cost in our case is $3. I can write it as mx plus 3, and you can substitute. When you put a value of x as 1, you should get a value of y as 5 with the rate m to be 2. I mean, there are multiple ways to solve. A team of workers have been moving cargo off a ship. The equation below models the approximate number of tons of cargo Y that remained to be moved X hours after the team started working. This is an equation they are using. The graph of this equation in the XY plane is a line. What is the best interpretation of the x-intercept in this context? So what is the x-intercept? Is basically x-intercept is the point where the value of y is 0. If I make a rough sketch for this, how would be the graph of this one is gonna be? Graph of the line, it is gonna be something like this. So this will be y equal to 120 minus 25x. So initial number of tons of cargo is 120, and as the number of hours are increasing, the number of cargoes left in that ship is gonna be 0. So they're asking me what would be the x-intercept is representing. As I told, x-intercept is the point where the value of y to be 0. Substitute that. So I can solve for it. So 0 equal to 120 minus 25x. So you can put it on the Desmos. I can clearly type it as 0 equal to 120 minus 25x. You'll be getting the value of x, that is 4.8. So what I can conclude here, after a 4.8 hours, the entire cargo has been removed or taken out of the ship. So which option matches with this? The team will have moved all cargo in about 4.8 hours. Makes sense. So this is the option A, which is correct. So you might also get confused with option C and D. So let me ignore option B because it's clearly saying that the team has been moving about 4.8 tons. No, the clearly question says Y number of tons, so it is wrong. C says the team has been moving about 25 tons of cargo per hour. That is true. That is true because it is the rate. But question asked me about the x-intercept. Okay, so that is the reason I have to talk with respect to the what information has been given. The team started with 120 tons of cargo to move. This is also true. As I said, initial value 120. But question specifically asked about interpretation with respect to x-intercept. That's why A makes more sense. This is a very easy question. It says a contract for a certain service requires a one-time activation cost of $35 and a monthly cost of $23. Which equation represents this situation where C is the total cost in dollars of this service contract for T months? So the total cost is equal to initial cost is going to be $35 plus if a contract is for T number of months, monthly cost is going to be 23. So we should be writing it as 23 times T. So that will be the equation for the total cost. It can also be said 23 T plus 35 makes sense with option C. The function f gives the temperature in degree Fahrenheit that corresponds to the temperature of x Kelvin. If a temperature increased by 9.10 kelvins, by how much did the temperature increases in degree Fahrenheit? So we are asked us to find out temperature in degree Fahrenheit when the x increases. Increases basically add 9.10 to the value of x. If I am writing that value now, f of x plus 9.10, I am increasing that x value by that, equal to 9 by 5 times, I can do 9.10 plus x, okay, and that rest all is as it is, minus 273.15 plus 32. Now if you distribute it very carefully, what happens? This becomes 9 by 5 times, I am distributing it this, times 9.10 plus, and if you distribute this 9 by 5 to this entire term, which can also be written as 9 by 5, I am writing it in terms of the given function itself, x minus 273.15 plus 32. Okay, this is the same as the initial value what I can say, which is gonna be fx. So now by what value it got increased? It got increased by this much amount. So if you put it on the calculator, 9 by 5 times multiply with 9.10, it got increased by 16.38. So I'll be writing this equation as 16.38 plus, this is the same as the original given equation. I can write it as this one as just f of x. So when the x value increased by this, the temperature in Fahrenheit got increased by 16.38. So we go with option A as the right answer. I can also solve in other way, okay, but this is the easiest what I can say. The pressure exerted on scuba diver at a sea level is 14.70 psi. For each foot the scuba diver descends below the sea level, the pressure exerted on the scuba diver increased by 0.44. What is the total pressure in psi exerted on the scuba diver at 105 feet below the sea level? Per feet pressure is increasing by 0.44 and initially it was this. Now what would be the total pressure on the scuba diver? If I am saying total pressure is T, initial pressure at the sea level is 14.70 plus a scuba diver is going down by 105 feet, 105, with increment of 0.44 per feet, multiply by this 0.44. So that together gives us a value of 60 60.90. So that makes sense. That is the total pressure by this level will be 60.90. Makes sense with option A.